today on the Tearsheet podcast.
The mandate is quite clear. Chase is really about helping our customers make more of what's theirs. And my job as the head of technology for Chase is to make that happen every single day. And so, we're very focused on our customer experience. We're very focused on helping solve problems that, our customers are facing every single day and making it easy for them to manage their financial lives and giving them access to the tools and capabilities that make that possible.
Welcome to the Tearsheet podcast. I'm Tearsheet Editor-in-Chief, Zack Miller. So much time and money is spent on maintaining technology within incumbent organizations. Instead of calling this tension technology debt or even legacy technology, JPMorgan Chase CIO for Consumer and Community Banking, Rohan Amin, likes to call it heritage tech. I like that description as it gives room for the ongoing investment in the tech stack, but also in customers, the brand, and the bank's history. Rohan joins us on the podcast to discuss his mandate as CIO of the largest U.S. bank, with a tech budget of $4 billion and over 12,000 technologists globally. We talk about the balance between maintenance and building and creating new products. He discusses how the pandemic affected the businesses he and his team support. We talk about the bank's approach to accessibility and APIs. Lastly, Rohan talks about his biggest priorities for 2021 and beyond. Chief Information Officer for Consumer and Community Banking at JPMorgan Chase, Rohan Amin is my guest today on the Tearsheet podcast.
I'm Rohan Amin, and I'm the Chief Information Officer of our Consumer and Community Banking business in JPMorgan Chase. And so what that means is I'm the head of technology for Chase, our retail bank. And that's a team of more than 12,000 technologists and engineers and an investment of approximately $4 billion across all Chase lines of business, our consumer banking, credit cards, home lending, auto, business banking, and wealth management. And so effectively, I'm responsible for the technology for everything from our branches, ATMs, our call centers, and things like chase.com and our mobile app as well. And part of a broader firm, JPMorgan Chase, in which we have 50,000 technologists, and we invest more than $12 billion a year in technology. So quite an amazing organization and proud to be here. Zach, thanks so much for the opportunity.
It's great to have you here. And Rohan, you mentioned sort of your responsibilities. Can we look at what your mandate is as CIO? Like, what are your objectives and how do you judge your own performance?
The mandate is quite clear. Chase is really about helping our customers make more of what's theirs. And my job as the head of technology for Chase is to make that happen every single day. And so, we're very focused on our customer experience. We're very focused on helping solve problems that, our customers are facing every single day and making it easy for them to manage their financial lives and giving them access to the tools and capabilities that make that possible. And in times of need, like, for example, what happened over the past year, we want to make sure we're there for our customers with things like payment assistance or small businesses, with the payroll protection program. And so we're here for our customers, and the mandate is to support that overall mission. And increasingly, as technology and digital is just continuing to become a greater part of the customer experience, I'd say that mandate importance continues to grow.
That's great. And I'm kind of curious about how you split your time and your budget. We have a lot of guests in your seat on the podcast talking about, the necessity to manage legacy tech. How much of your time and money is spent managing legacy technology versus building and creating new products?
Zach, it's probably not a surprise to anyone that large organizations and obviously banks have, heritage technology. The real question in my mind, as I think about that, is, what are we doing about it? And frankly, with our significant investment capability, and you heard the numbers earlier, it turns out we're able to do quite a bit about it. As I mentioned, we're very focused on the customer experience, and whenever it's time for us to bring something new to market, and we're always bringing new feature functionality, to market for our customers, we're also modernizing the tech that powers that experience as well. And I think the results are pretty clear. I'm very proud of the team and the work they've done. For example, just very recently, JD Power rated us as having the #1 app for wealth management. And so that's an example of how staying focused on the customer experience and modernizing the technology along the way, is able to achieve that sort of an outcome.
I also like the way, Rohan, you described legacy technology as heritage technology. That kind of changes the whole impression of what's sitting behind the scenes for me. I like that term.
Yeah, and look, it's also it's also a way to me, it's a better way to speak to the organization about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've actually been very deliberate about the use of the word heritage as opposed to legacy.
It's not a burden. Legacy implies burden, I guess. Yeah.
And heritage, it honors the past
Mm-hmm.
honestly, and many of those systems are still quite critical, and will continue to be for some time. And so that's the way we talk about it here. As I mentioned, we're fortunate that we have the investment capacity to be able to continue to modernize our technology and keep the customer experience forefront, because at the end of the day, that's the thing that really matters, is making sure the customer experience is there.
Got it. And I want to go back, I guess, to drilling down a little bit more into your responsibilities, and I guess how the Chase is, how the group is structured. So you mentioned in your intro that you do support other lines of business within Chase, and if you do, how do you do that?
Yeah. So let me first just give a little bit of a quick orientation to JPMorgan Chase overall. And JPMorgan Chase has 4 major lines of business.
Mm-hmm.
What we call consumer and community banking, or CCB, aka Chase. That's the technology component of which I'm responsible for. And we have 3 other lines of business at the firm: our asset and wealth management business, commercial bank, and our corporate and investment bank. And that larger sort of firm is what I was referring to in terms of $12 billion of technology, more than 50,000 technologists and engineers. And so Chase is the consumer and community banking piece. That's the 12,000 technologists and engineers. And so within Chase, I mentioned the lines of business earlier, and think of that as mostly the pieces that everyday consumers can recognize, small businesses. But we also, our platform that we run in Chase, chase.com. And since, my team is responsible for chase.com, some of our businesses also leverage that platform as well. So yes, it's the retail piece of the bank, of the firm overall, but the platforms that we run also service the other lines of business as well. So it's quite horizontal in that regard. It's a large organization, a lot of relationships to manage.
A lot of moving pieces. Absolutely.
Yes.
Ron, you also mentioned in your introduction about the impact, I guess, this year has had, and I guess how you need to respond to sort of circumstances in the market. Certainly nobody planned on the pandemic this year. Like, how did the pandemic affect your business?
Definitely the pandemic has accelerated our shift towards digital, a path that we have been on for quite some time. But certainly, we saw signs of continued and in some areas further acceleration, during the pandemic. And our view is that the migration that we're seeing, to digital channels and digital adoption will persist, even post pandemic. Just to kind of share with you some stats, we have nearly 55 million digitally active customers, which is up 6% year on year. And our mobile active customers stands at 40 million. That's up 10% year on year. And one other interesting point that you might find is that since the start of the pandemic, actually half of the new digitally active customers that we have are over 50. And so that speaks to sort of like the growing outreach that we have from a customer standpoint. And 2 other data points that I think you'll find interesting is that I think you're familiar with mobile deposit. Our Chase Quick Deposit allows customers to deposit their checks, from the mobile device. It now represents more than 40% of all check deposits. That number was 30% pre-COVID, and so a 10% increase in mobile check deposit vis-a-vis the other channels like the branch and the ATM. And so continued strong adoption, and I'd say like that one for sure has accelerated. And then in home lending, and if you think this one, I found interesting too. If you think about home lending and getting a mortgage, that's obviously a complex process and lots of documents, and it's for many people, it's one of the most complex and important financial transactions they'll do in their lives. And more than half of the applications were completed digitally. That's twice the level of what it was just in Q1 of this year. And so now we're seeing half of the applications being completed digitally. So just you can see the before and after, if you will, on the pandemic, and some of the results are quite clear.
So I just want to drill down on that. I mean, from what I've read, let me ask you, instead of making assumptions, did Chase shutter some branches during the pandemic, at least temporarily?
We always look at our branch network, and obviously, just given the safety considerations and concerns for our frontline employees and our bankers, we did have to optimize the branch network and have some of the branches closed. But we did that obviously thoughtfully in the regard of the fact that we've got a number of customers that rely on us, and ensured that we were able to retain service in those key areas while we have gone through that optimization, just given everything that's going on. So no different than anybody else, but sort of wanted to make sure that they're just given the pandemic and the stresses of making sure the frontline employees who don't have the luxury of being able to work from home, obviously keeping them safe, top of mind for us, and as well as making sure that we can take care of our customers at the same time.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to shift gears a little bit. One of the themes that we pick up on at Tearsheet is, the continued development and expansion of products that reach a broader swath of customers. And so I just had a question for you about accessibility and how you think about accessibility as it's built into your products and services.
No, Zach, that's a really, really good question. And frankly, something that I'm personally passionate about. And we pride ourselves on building technology for everyone. And that's what we call it, building technology for everyone. And accessibility is a key component of that. And accessibility to me, is not only in terms of recognizing the importance of being able to reach a broader set of customers, but it also has a technology implication in terms of, just like we think about stability and resiliency and all the other things that you think about from an engineering standpoint and bringing something to life. Accessibility is another one of those things that we solve for in terms of how we build and create software in our technology. So it's quite foundational to our product development. Any new features that we launch on chase.com or in the mobile app always start with our inclusive design principles, and that sort of goes through our entire software development process. And I'll give you a simple example of that. We leveraged technology to make our mobile deposit feature. And if you go into into the mobile check deposit feature, there's a screen reader if you're using it in an accessible way that provides the voiceover for the entire screen. But to make it much easier for visually impaired customers to deposit checks remotely, we took the extra steps to make sure we had some custom code in there to make sure that only the relevant sections of the screen are being read by the screen reader. And so it's things like that in terms of just the attention to detail and making sure that we're being thoughtful about how different people with different abilities might be accessing our app and how we thought about it in our design and how it'll be used in those mechanisms. And we get great feedback on this. A number of customers have told us that they bank with us precisely because of the focus that we've had on accessibility, making sure that the app is usable by a much broader swath of folks.
Got it. I also want to ask you, Rohan, about APIs and how you're thinking about developing today's and future current products with openness, I guess, to interconnectivity between Chase technology and maybe third parties out there.
Yeah, so the API story for us is really sort of a two-part, story, if you will. There's a story internally, and then there's certainly the story that you're referring to, which is the external one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me just touch on the internal one for just a second.
Sure.
Which is that we want our internal services to be able to be consumed by each other increasingly, through a set of APIs and services, so that ultimately we can continue to shorten the product development lifecycle and bring more feature functionality to customers in a more rich way more quickly. And so having an internal API focus allows us to do that as well. But to your point, externally, it's also quite important to our overall strategy, and allows us to bring different experiences to our customer base. And again, another example of experiences that have really paid off, during the pandemic in particular, things like our partnership with DoorDash, where we've being able to bring integrate with them, and so our customers are able to take advantage of DoorDash and the benefits there, as well as other partnerships that we've done, things like Lyft and Talk Dining benefits, and the fact that our integrations with Amazon and things like paying with points on Amazon. So all of that is those partnerships, those third-party integrations. Those are all done using APIs, and allows us to bring that functionality in a quick, seamless way. And it also signals to those companies that we're frankly easy to work with, and we've got quick integrations that provide value to both parties on the end of that transaction. But Zach, it's more important. It goes beyond that, which is especially for the external ecosystem, the API piece also allows us to bring in the importance of security, and in something what we call account safe, which is that we're able to understand and see and show you what apps and what other companies you have hooked up to your Chase account, and since those companies are increasingly required to use our secure API for that, they don't get access to the data unless they come through there, and so therefore we can tell you who's using it and then give you the control to figure out if you want to disable that. And so it's just putting more power and more control in the hands of our customers, more transparency, and so there's a security story there, along with a story around bringing third-party experiences to customers that they'd appreciate.
And Rohan, I appreciate also how you developed the internal API. I guess that JPMorgan Chase is the first customer for the APIs, and what that must do in terms of designing and developing for that external ecosystem.
Yeah, and in many ways, we definitely pride ourselves very much on eating our own cooking first, is what we would say, and we want to be able to make sure that we can use it, that it's developer friendly, that it's because in many cases the party that we're working with on the other end is also an engineer and a developer, and we want to make sure they're able to integrate seamlessly in our environment.
Totally. And in the remaining time that we have, I want to look a little bit forward. Like, what's on your plate for 2021? What are your biggest priorities? What are you focused on?
We've already talked about the API bit, which has been and continues to be an important part of the strategy. But one area that we didn't talk about yet is our focus on machine learning and artificial intelligence, and we're making significant headway on the machine learning front. For customers today, when they're dealing with unfortunate situations like fraud, we have incorporated machine learning algorithms into our fraud prevention strategy, to huge benefit for those customers in terms of reducing friction and also reducing fraud losses. And so that's an area that has been and will continue to be a deep focus for machine learning. But we've also been using machine learning to improve the customer experience in terms of personalization. And so we've launched a feature called Snapshot, where the mobile app has tiles in it, and it provides you insights that are specific to you about your spending history, and also your trends. And that's generated through machine learning and other algorithms that we're using to sort of produce those personalized, snackable insights, for customers. And then also just more broadly on business processes, we're using machine learning to streamline our business processes, provide more consistency and quality and speed to the process. So I'd say, second category is certainly the machine learning front for sure, is an area of focus for us. And then, something that we call, which is any channel your choice, which is we want to be able to meet customers wherever they are and reach us in the channel of their choice. And we already talked about accessibility, which is a piece of that. But customers, we want to be able to self-serve things end to end. They might want to start in one channel and finish in another. Start an application here and pick it up somewhere else. So we want to make it seamless. We want to make it easy. And customers interact with us both digitally and in the branch. And so it's not about one or the other. It's really about both. And things like video. where that's a growth area, for sure. And in certain client segments, we want to be able to interact with those customers and clients using video. And so I think being able to meet the customer in the channel that they want to, it's something we call any channel your choice. That is something that will also be a focus for us as we move ahead.
Ron, I appreciate it talking to you. Thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet podcast today.
Thanks so much, Zach. Appreciate it.